I'm your host, Brittany McDowell. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our PAC Politics Podcast. If you don't know, our podcast is brought to you by our organization, our United Resource PAC. We are a tax-exempt political organization. On today's show, we are discussing, very briefly, might I add, COVID relief lessons. Yes, indeed. There are some lessons that many Americans have learned from how the Trump administration handled COVID relief. And we saw that when you try to do as little as possible, as was done with the Trump administration, we saw how that turns out, not just for the broader American economy, but for individual Americans and their families and the small communities in which they live. And so we're talking about that again very briefly today. I know today is a big news day, as I'll talk about and mention briefly a little later. You'll probably hear many other people talking about many other things regarding our future stimulus package, because things have been set in motion. Again, today is a big day, a big news day regarding something very specific that has happened to really propel us towards getting that next COVID relief package. I'm going to mention that, but again, I really want to dwell on, again, very briefly, the lessons that we need to learn, that many of us have learned from the Trump administration, because if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat those same mistakes in the future, right? So we're going to talk about that. And then also, yet again today, we have a resource for those of you who need to check the status of the most recent economic impact payment if you have yet to receive it. So listen up, stay tuned to today's show, because that's what I've got planned. All right, let's go ahead and let's get this show started. You're listening to another episode of our PAC Politics Podcast. It's about that time for the next episode. Hey, this is Brittany. Just wanted to shoot you a quick reminder. Look in the description box of this episode and you can find a link to our website. On our website, you can find our latest blog posts. You can find our contact information. You even want to make a contribution, you can go over there and do that as well. You can find out the policies we are looking at and targeting as an organization. You know, I say all the time that we are a tax-exempt political organization. If you want to know more about that, again, go on over to our website, our-pac.com, where you can find out everything you want to know. You can do everything you want to do. We will gladly welcome you on our website with open arms. Again, check out our website in the description box below. I think that there are some lessons that we have collectively learned from the Trump administration regarding COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief. I'm of the impression that life is about lessons. You should be constantly learning. Sometimes you learn by reading something, or sometimes you learn by someone showing you something, or just pure observation. And sometimes you learn due to mistakes that either you make or other people make. And I'll say that I tell members of my team, and I kind of operate myself under the notion that, look, we're all human. We're going to make mistakes, but the key here is to learn from those mistakes, right? That is what makes the mistake itself, even if it's not, the best thing. That's what makes it at least tolerable, the fact that you made a mistake, right? And the same kind of applies to this situation, this political situation, this health situation, this pandemic situation, right? As long as we learn a lesson, that doesn't mean that all the thousands of people who have died are going to come back. That doesn't mean that all the millions of people who have had to contend with this deadly contagion doesn't mean that, that's going to go away, or the effects that have been left on their ravaged body are just going to disappear. That's not what that means. This is no excuse. But if we at least learn from what we did specifically and especially regarding our relief efforts for our economy, if we at least learn, at the very least, no, we don't have a guarantee that things won't be messed up in the future, right? But we do at least know that if we at least learn from our past mistake, we're not really likely, or mistakes rather, right? We didn't just make one mistake. If we at least learn from our past mistakes, the likelihood that we will repeat those mistakes are significantly decreased. That said, where am I going with this? Well, President Biden, he has recently said today that, look, our government's response to this point, a response that, 17 days ago he was not responsible for, but the response under the previous administration was something that he was able to learn from. And it taught him purely by observation, like right even before he even got in and really saw the true ramifications of things that us as the general public just really don't know. But even while he was still an outsider looking in, he was able to learn. He was able to learn that, look, when you're in a crisis like this, right, there is a negative impact with trying to do something that is too small, right? When you want to provide relief, or when you claim you're going to give relief, and I'm giving air quotes here, I'm using air quotes, and that relief is small, there's a negative impact to that. And this wasn't just like a hypothetical, well, I'm hypothesizing and, like philosophically, we can suppose that no, it's like everyday average Americans are living with the negative ramifications of the small piddly widdly diddly, barely even their relief that the federal government provided its citizens. And I think that observation, the fact that President Biden was able to openly say this, and let me say, he wasn't doing it just like as a matter of, oh, I'm saying this to kind of blame my predecessor. I'm saying this to kind of shift blame and show that, see, I'm just coming. No. Like he literally and like seriously was saying it from a place of, look, there is a lesson to be learned here. If we are going to talk about what we are going to do in the future regarding economic stimulus and relief due to this pandemic that none of us caused. Now, you could make the argument that a lot of people played a part in perpetuating this getting so much worse than it had to be by their either silence or, willful neglect, so on. You can make that argument. But for the most part, most of us Americans had nothing to do with this pandemic and how bad it has gotten, right? And so he was saying this from a place of, look, I'm here. I want to do the right thing. I understand that Americans need relief. And in understanding that and understanding my responsibility to address that, when I look at the past and the efforts that were done, they were not enough. And not only were they not enough, they actually had a negative impact. There were negative impacts due to the limited, the targeted, the small, right? Those words, you get what I'm doing here? There's very negative impact when you seek to do the least amount possible. And for me, it kind of made me think of something. I don't know if you've ever heard that quote before, that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Same applies here, right? We have tried doing as little as possible. We have tried doing the bare minimum, and it didn't work. And so when you have these people who are making the case, or at least attempting to make the case, that we should do that again, the question I pose is, are you insane? Or do you think that we're insane and we're not going to catch on to the fact that you did this before and it didn't work? There's this myth out there that, if we do too much, it's going to be harmful to the economy. Like, I'm really glad that at this point we have various authority figures, including our president, our commander-in-chief himself, who was saying, look, when you compare the damage done by two different options, option A is do too much and option B is do too little, the damage that is done by doing too little is significantly more damage than you would have if you did too much. And so, again, we tried under the Trump administration, under a Republican-controlled Senate, under a situation where Mitch McConnell refused to hear anything or vote on anything that would be way more substantial than he was even willing to allow up for a vote. We tried that before. We tried doing as little as possible. And I'm frankly, when I look at the Republicans who had that meeting with our president, and they had the meeting to discuss their package. I think it's $600 billion, significantly less, targeted, aka less. I feel insulted, and I think that my fellow Americans should feel insulted as well. Like, again, they didn't do what they did because they're insane. They did what they did, and they propose what they propose because they think we are insane. And quite frankly, we have been to this point. What? Yes, we have been insane. What do I mean? What I mean is voters for too long have failed to hold politicians accountable. They're doing all the craziness now because in how many years, 2 years, 6 years, depending on where they're at, they're going to be up in a situation where, okay, it's time to run again. And they're hoping that right before their campaign for re-election kicks off, all they have to do is kiss babies and shake hands. And then you'll totally forget. You'll have political amnesia, and you will totally forget that they, at every opportunity, voted against your best interest. At every opportunity, they voted to keep the food out of the mouths of your children. At every opportunity, they voted to deny you the ability to seek health care during a pandemic that was killing people by the thousands every day. So to their credit, yeah, voters have had amnesia. That's how a lot of these people keep getting reelected. So in all fairness, can we really blame them? Can we say that they're no, the problem is us. We have to change. And again, voting is good. Voting is great. Hope and change is good. Hope and change is great. But both of those are not enough, right? Voting in and of itself, again, it's something that you should be doing. But if you think that is the crux of your power as a citizen of this great country, you have been misguided, and you have been misinformed to your disadvantage. The people who are in power are not out there marching in the streets. The people who have real political power, they do more than just vote. And even though they have vast amounts of money, There are more than us than there are of them. And if we get enough of our message out, their message doesn't matter. Their message isn't as effective. But I've gone off on a tangent here. So let me get back to what I was saying. So when I look at this kind of fact, that not an alternative fact, by the way, like a real fact, right? Because I know the last few years we've been having to deal with alternative facts and we are out of that galaxy. But when I look at the fact that, again, what we tried with President Trump under his direction, under the direction of Mitch McConnell, Turtle in Chief, like we did not see sufficient help to the American people. And so the question I pose to the people, specifically the Republicans who came back and said, look, we only want to do $600 billion worth of help, and we don't think we need this $1.9 trillion plan. We have not tried this plan, but we have tried yours, and it did not work. So the question I pose to you is, do we do even less? Or do we try doing more if we try doing less and it didn't work? We just did $900 billion. That didn't work. So your solution is that we do less than that. Okay. People got a $1,200 check. That didn't work, a stimulus check. So you proposed sending them half of that, a $600 check. And that didn't work either. So now you don't want to do a check. Now you want to do a $300 check. And where is their logic? Somebody please explain this to me. But let me tell you something. This is a life pro tip. If we're two parties coming together to negotiate something, if I think that you are a serious negotiator, if I think that you are an informed negotiator, I'm not going to come to you with an insulting or a stupid proposal. I'm not coming to the table because I know that you're too smart for that, and I know that you're serious. So why am I going to waste your time or mine? You know what I mean? Like, the joke is on us, the American people. And this is something that I want to see more people talk about. Yes, these politicians, but how many times over and over, election cycle after freaking election cycle, do we have this conversation about, oh, these politicians, they're just taking advantage of the American people. People only do to you what you let them do to you. If I keep letting you slam my hand in the freaking door, at what point am I responsible to take my hand out of the door? At what point? Now, some people will say, well, your hand is tied down to the door because the man has it tied. No. I don't have this victim mentality that a lot of people have. I don't. I don't. We're too strong. We've come too far as a country. I do not believe that we are a country of victims. Do I think that there are some things that are set in place to systematically disenfranchise people? Absolutely. But at what point? It's kind of like, let me give you an example. I'm in my 30s, right? And I feel that there are people who emotionally are abusive. They have been to me for a while, right? At what point, at 30 years old, well, I'm older than 30, but actually, I tell people I'm 25. I've been 25 for several years now. At what point am I responsible to remove myself from the situation and say, look, I'm no longer giving you access to me to be able to do this, right? Or is my only option just to sit there and say, oh, for all these many years you've been doing this to me, and like, no. You don't have to like me. I can't make you like me, but you know what? I can sure as heck not give you access to me. And that's the same thing that we have to say with these politicians. At what point are we going to say, you know what? I can't make you believe that people genuinely need help. I can't make you believe that $7 and some change, an hour is enough to live on. I can't make you believe the virus is real. I can't make you believe in masks, but you know what? I sure as heck can make sure that you are not in the position to make or influence laws that have to do with any of this crap. At what point are we going to hold ourselves responsible? Moving on. President Biden, he said, and I'm going to read his quote here exactly. He said, "The one thing we learned is we can't do too much here. We can do too little. We can do too little and sputter." End quote. And then he went on to say, and I'm quoting again, "Real live people are hurting and we can fix it. We can fix it." And the irony, and all ironies, is if we help them, we are also helping our competitive capacity through the remainder of this decade. End quote. So he's saying, look, one, we're not doing enough. We need to do more. Two, newsflash, if you help these people, newsflash two, it goes around in a circle and it helps us all. Right? Why did I? Okay, I'm not going to even say what went through my mind when I said that. So we have here again a president who is making it clear that he's seeing the bigger picture here. Now, I'm going to kind of deviate from something. I wasn't planning to say this earlier, but or at all during the show, but I have mentioned specifically when I talked about the next stimulus check and what it's likely to be. We now know that it will be $1,400. At least that's what is being put on the table. A lot of people, I'm noticing a lot of people are having this conversation where they are expressing frustration around the fact that we were promised $2,000, damn it, but you only want to give us $1,400. I'm right there with you. I am so right there with you, right? But look, let me show you something. Do I think that we should be getting a check that has a 2 and 3 zeros, actually a 2 and 5 zeros immediately preceding it, with the decimal point in there? Absolutely. I do not think we should be getting a $1,400 check. But I do think also that by focusing on that, instead of the fact that kind of the bigger news story of the day, beyond what happened and which we'll talk about momentarily with the Senate, the bigger news story of the day is the fact that he has said that, look, I'm not moving off of this $1,400, right? Why is this important? In the past, the number was always negotiable from the president on down. That's not the case with Joe Biden. Now you can say, well, the number is negotiable now, Brittany, because he said it was going to be 2,000 and oh my God, it's only 14. Yeah, no, but that's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying. Get with the program. We have to not get carried off and go off on these little tangents, which I know I have a lot of nerve to even say since I do it all the time. But as a society, we have to collectively keep ourselves from going off and staring at the weeds when we need to be focusing on the woods, right? Quit looking at the weeds, look at the woods. And I'm not talking about the stuff that some of y'all are smoking. Now, not me because I don't smoke, but it's none of my business what you do. But stop looking at the weeds and look at the woods because you're missing the bigger picture here. So what is this kind of big news that it's not even big news right now because, well, at least I'm not like breaking any news because I'm pretty sure you've already heard about it. And if you haven't heard about it, you need to up your game and listen to the news at some point, because with how late I'm putting this podcast episode out today, it's a shame that you're just hearing about this if you have not heard it before now. Essentially, I've been mentioning several things that have been taking place. Everything from an executive order to kind of these meetings and stuff. But we really had some big movement come from the Senate today where they approved the Democratic budget resolution, this morning. What is this? Remember, I was telling you on the last show that reconciliation is the name of the game, and reconciliation is the process by which we're going to actually come to get the next stimulus package in a way that does not require us to even utilize any Republicans. They can sit on the sidelines with their hands folded, which is going to be, oh my gosh, when you think about it on this this current election cycle, because we're already, right, you have the election on the 4th, and then that next day, the next election cycle starts. But when you think about the fact that these next set of elections we're going into, if we have these politicians, and can you imagine the ads that not just us, but other people are going to run, where you had, especially if these Republicans just don't vote or vote nay on, this budget proposal. Like, can you imagine the ads that are going to come out? So and so didn't vote at all and said no to get it. You know what I mean? Like, I totally couldn't come up with anything in this moment, but you get what I'm saying. You get where I'm going here. Can you imagine what, like, they think that in this moment this is winning them points? But look, and I'm not saying this to you as a Democrat, right? I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. Like, quite frankly, like, personally, we're not going to get into me right now. But if Democrats play their cards right, if they actually do right by the American people with the terrible cards that the American economy, that the American health situation has handed them, Democrats can actually use this to their advantage for decades and essentially put the Republican Party in its place. And what I mean by in its place is in the minority, because if you look at the actual numbers and you look at, like, if we just counted every American by head, right, like, Democrats overwhelm the number of Republicans, right, in terms of the numbers, in terms of voting, right? But anywho, you can, if you are a wise Democrat, if you work on mobilizing people to not just get more politically involved in terms of voting, because Democrats actually do a pretty good job at, mobilizing their base in terms of getting out and voting. But when you actually look at why it is politicians do what's not in their constituents' best interest, it boils down to what? Money, 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 money. Money. So if they can actually now start mobilizing voters to say, look, your vote is important and we need you to keep giving us that, but we also need you to give us money, 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 then they will put themselves in a situation where, look, we don't have to go and chase certain dollar bills, right? Certain dollars, those corrupt dollars, those dollars that are dangled in front of our faces. And I'm not talking about the people who genuinely want to do what the bad dollars, the bad dangled dollars want them to do. I'm talking about the people who, like, have this, like, deep-seated kind of conscious conflict, within themselves, where they're like, look, I'd love to make this decision, but I can't because I've got to fund my campaign, right? Those are the people, like, if we can really mobilize the people, but again, I've gone off on a tangent. Look, I'm going to close with this. So the Senate, what we saw in the Senate today, long story short, basically paves the way again for us to see what? To see reconciliation. So We didn't just get the go-ahead from the president. We didn't just get people saying, no, this is the plan. We now have, like, again, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is the direction we're going. We're not looking at the compass, wondering if we're going north, west, east, or south. We know we're going west to the left, right? And so this is now what we are doing, okay? But I say all of this, and I spent this whole show talking about this because President Biden, he gets it. He really, really does. He has learned from the Trump administration. Now, is that great? Yeah, that's great. But is that enough? No. Because like I said, especially when pointing out the Democrats, and really, if they really want to seize political power, they really still have a lot to learn. I do think that we've seen a glimmer of hope, that they are not doing their normal kind of capitulation, their normal roll over and play dead and just, you know what I mean? Like, we're not seeing that. Maybe that wasn't the best, given what we just went through. It probably wasn't the best to say roll over and play dead, especially given the current environment. So I'm going to pull that one back from the universe and apologize for that. But, normally Democrats, they, have a tendency to just, oh, let's go along to get along. Let's sing Kumbaya. Let's, well, I know we want to provide health care to people, but you know what? And I know we said we would, but you know what? We'll just do everything you want to do because Kumbaya, right? That's normally the Democrats. But that's not what we're seeing this time around. And I'm actually, part of me is hopeful and excited. But I think the real testament to the American people is going to be, again, do these people make good on their promises? And like, yeah, there is that conversation around, you promised us $2,000, but you're only giving us, yeah, there is that. But again, stay focused on the woods, not the weeds, right? But anywho, I don't know. I wonder, the last question I'll pose is, do you think the rest of our elected officials have also learned the same lesson, right? President Biden, he was on the outside looking in. He was an inside outsider looking in, and he learned the lesson that, hey, what President Trump did in terms of doing the bare minimum, it didn't work. Do you think these other politicians on the right, they clearly didn't learn, but on the left, do you think the ones who were centrist, the ones who were moderate, do you think they learned? And I don't know. I think only time is going to tell. Hey, so I want to tell you about our email list. Our email list is one of the best ways that you can stay in touch with us. If you look in the description box of this episode, you'll find a link to join our email list. By joining our email list, you'll get access to updates about policy and politicians that we support and oppose. When we have events, you'll get to know about those events via emails. And we'll just generally share news with you. We won't spam your inbox, I promise. And also, we inform you of our newest podcast episodes, which come out Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, by the way. Anyhow, joining the email list is not only easy, but it is absolutely free. Look in the description box of this episode. You'll find the link. Click it. Give us your name and your email. That's all we need. And you'll be in. So please join our email list and connect with us today. All right. Thanks. Today's resource that I am sharing is a resource that we have mentioned and promoted several times on our podcast before. What it is an official government tool that will help you confirm if the IRS and Treasury have sent your economic impact payment, your stimulus check. But in addition to that, it will also let you know the method by which they sent it, how they sent it, if they sent a direct deposit. And if you didn't get it, maybe it went into a wrong account. And if that's the case, it will also inform you of what will happen. Maybe they mailed you a check and it's in the mail and your mail is just, who knows, right? But if I don't have that information, but this tool does, it again is an official government tool. To get access to it, if you look in the description box of this episode, you will find a link to join our mailing list. We will not spam you. Our mailing list is an awesome way to keep in contact with us. But most importantly, it's an awesome way to get access to this tool. It's great, again, for you if you have not yet received your economic impact payment, as well as other people. It might be something that you want to get access to, so that way you can share it with them. The resource also does mention the other kind of option that some people are going to have when it comes to actually getting your economic impact payment. Some people will get checks. Some people will get direct deposits. Some people who are eligible will end up having to utilize a tax credit. If you want more information, not just on how you'll get your payment, if you'll get it when, you also, might want to get information on this tax credit, which this tool will also provide you information on. So again, if you look in the description box below, click the link to join our email list. You'll just have to give us your name, your email address, and as soon as you sign up, we'll get you a welcome email, and then within a few seconds after that, you'll get the email with access to this resource. So you can find that in the description box below. I hope the resource is of benefit to you or someone you know. All right, so that is our show this Friday, February 5th, 2021. I hope you walked away from today's show understanding. I'm pretty sure you did. But I hope that you walked away not just kind of knowing the lesson for yourself, because again, I'm pretty sure you knew the lesson to be learned from what the Trump administration did regarding COVID-19 economic stimulus and relief. But I hope you walk away understanding that we at the very least have a president who understands what went wrong and who has learned the lesson, or at least he claims to have learned the lesson, that, hey, the Trump administration tried doing as little as possible, and doing that doesn't work, right? And that can be of hope for a lot of people. I know I'm the same person all the time telling you not to sniff the opium and to live in reality. Yeah, but this is one of those things when you have hope that is grounded in fact, in that moment, then it's okay to have hope. And again, we're in that moment. So it's okay for you to have hope because, again, if you are feeling hopeful because, again, we have a president who has learned the lesson, then you're right in feeling that hope. We should all feel hope. That should make us all feel pretty hopeful. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Please stay safe because COVID is real. The numbers are looking a little better, but if you didn't know, January has been the worst month of the pandemic with over 100,000 Americans dying in a single month. It's not good. It's not good. It's a little better, but it's not good. So don't let up. Keep wearing your hand sanitizer, your masks, your goggles, face shields, and most of all, if you do have that hazmat suit, you know what I'm going to say, right? Break that sucker out. All right. Have a good one, and I will see you on Monday. Thank you for listening to our PAC Politics Podcast.